People of a certain age will remember one of the more obnoxious jingles, Suzuki, four-wheel jive. The company subjected us to that about 20 years ago, and it sticks in the head. Well, it stuck in mine anyway. The company had made a name for itself with bouncy little hardy four-wheel drives like the Sierra and the Jimny. It also made the most 90s car ever, the Vitara. Often full of bikinis and board shorts and white teeth and abs you could bounce a planet off, and I think there was frozen yogurt involved in there somewhere. I reckon Suzuki probably got really mad about the SUV surge because they'd made a whole company around it and missed the boat. In 2015, the Vitara returned with a really sharp, light, better reboot. I quite liked it. And then in 2019, they did a little bit of a reorganisation to simplify the range and make it a little bit safer. And if you want the full rundown, make sure you read our review on carsguide.com.au, and before you go, click subscribe so that you're on top of all of our latest videos. So before, we had lots of hyphenated names like RTS and S-Turbo and whatever else the marketing team dreamt up. Now we just have Vitara, Vitara Turbo, and this bad boy, the Vitara Turbo Allgrip. As in 2015, there are no soft tops or three doors, just the one 5-door body style. No more diesel either, which is no great loss. Part of the reorganisation included a mild refresh of the looks, which amounted to this new front end, although the blue tinge here on the lights persists and I still don't like it. But it does mean those headlights are LED. The profile is the same as before, but there's some nice shiny polished alloys on the two turbo models, and I still love that clamshell bonnet. If you really want to revisit the 90s, you can get a two-tone colour scheme. There are also these new taillights which look a bit funny, but have grown on me. Inside, not much has changed. There's a new soft touch dashboard if you like that kind of thing, although that's still pretty hard. Things are just as they were, although I do quite like this Alcantara insert on the seats. They used to be just untextured, but now they're all patterned, and that looks quite good. The materials are pretty much as they were, which means everything's fine. There is a brand new little screen in the middle of the dash here, which shows you big colour things when you press buttons. And the entertainment system, well, you know, it's alright. It was pretty good in 2015, but not much has changed, although it does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is always a bonus. You've also got climate control, and you've got cup holders. So it's, you know, it's nice. The Vitara isn't a huge car, but this back seat is by far the best in the class. I'm sitting behind where I sit, and I've got plenty of space. I'm 6 feet tall. Okay, I'm 5'11", but I'm 6 feet tall. I've got plenty of knee room. Headroom's a little bit marginal, but that's because of the sunroof. The Vitara Turbo Allgrip has this huge sunroof. Doesn't make a huge amount of difference, but it's worth knowing. Also worth knowing is there's no armrest, so there's no cup holders, and there are also no rear vents, but there is a bottle holder in each door. There is also a lot of space in the boot. Behind this tailgate is 375 litres of space. That's where you start. You've also got this nifty underfloor storage, space savers spare under there, a couple little cubbies on the side, which for some reason you can clip the sides off. I don't understand that. And when you drop the seats, you have 1125 litres. That is a lot of space. In fact, it's so big, you can fit the massive after-sales package. If you service your car with Suzuki, cap price servicing, you can have up to 5 years and 140,000 kilometres, and that includes roadside assistance. That's a pretty good deal. Under the bonnet is Suzuki's 1.4 litre turbo 4-cylinder. Now the base Vitara struggles on with a 1.6 litre engine. It's just wheezy and horrible and really, really slow. So the turbo, it has 103 kilowatts and 220 newton meters of torque. It also has a proper 6-speed automatic. Now, there's nothing amazing about those figures, and it matches pretty much everything else in the segment. The biggest changes for 2019 are on the safety front. Both the Turbo and Turbo Allgrip feature AEB, lane departure warning, adaptive cruise, blind spot monitoring, and reverse cross traffic alert. There's also something called weaving alert, but I don't think it's anything to do with macrame. So while the power figures are pretty much the same as everything in the class, I reckon there's a law about having around 100 kilowatts and around 200 newton meters. This car is much lighter than most others in the segment. So a CX-3 is almost 100 kilos heavier than even this top of the range Vitara. Now that's pretty good, so it means it's making more of what it's got. It doesn't turn it into a hot hatch, not by a long shot, but it does make it a really easy, relaxed cruiser. Now it is four-wheel drive, that's where the Allgrip name comes from, which to me sounds a little bit leery, but anyway, it's part-time. So when you do put your foot down when you're at the lights or whatever, you get a bit of torque steer because it's just acting as a front-wheel drive, and it only sends power to the wheels when they need it. Look, it's not brilliant, however, it does mean that you can take this car mild off-roading and you can take it, you know, down to the snow without having to fit chains. It's that kind of thing. So it's not the greatest all-wheel drive system. I do prefer the all-wheel drive system in the Kona and the CX-3, but I really do like the way this car drives. It's got a nice kind of loping feel to it. It rides really well. It's pretty quiet. We drove this up to the Blue Mountains, and the only time it was really noisy is when it suddenly started bucketing down with rain, and this huge sunroof suddenly started making an enormous amount of noise. What I have noticed is that since 2015, this car has become a lot less tinny. When I first drove one of these, you couldn't shut the back door without giving it an absolutely massive shove. It was just too light, and the Swift still does that. So it feels a lot more substantial, but it doesn't seem to have gained any weight. So I quite like that. No, it's not particularly quick, but no one who buys these cars is interested in that, so really that's just me and my complaint. It's actually got a decent set of tyres on it too, so there's a lot of little things that on the face of it you think, oh, that's nearly 35 grand for that car, but it's got a lot of little things on it that other cars at this price don't have, like a pretty good set of tyres. So I liked it when I drove it in 2015, and I like it more now, and I like this engine a lot. The gasping 1.6 is a horrible engine, and it makes the car really slow. This transmission's really good. There was probably some debate as to whether or not to go with the horrible CVT that Suzuki insists on in some of their cars, so that's nice because this is based on the S-Cross platform, which has that horrible CVT, and it's a really good car. I've been surprised at having had a long gap since I last drove it, how much I like driving it. I always thought that the Vitara was a little bit underrated. It certainly wasn't the greatest in its class when it came out, but I thought it was a pretty solid car. Now the 2019 one, I reckon it's a bit more competitive. It's got all the safety gear that was missing from before. It drives really well. It feels a bit more substantial. I don't know what's happened to make that happen, but it's happened. And it reminded me how good a car I thought when it came out, and not just because it was good for a Suzuki, but it was just a good car. I think unless you really need the all-wheel drive, you don't need the Allgrip. Save yourself a couple of grand and just get the turbo. But either way, I think you're making a good choice.